Hello to our amazing community of Wake Up and Dream podcast. I am Kelly here with the amazing gals, Sara and Lisa, and we have come together this morning. It seems like forever because we've all kind of just taken some weeks off. The Armstrongs moved from Kentucky back to Colorado. So we weren't able to really connect a whole lot the last few weeks. And so we kind of just came back together this morning and was just catching up like old times, right where we left off. And we were just talking about resetting and getting back to our roots, what the three of us are really wanting and needing now moving forward. There's so many things between the three of us that we've all kind of endured, taken on, made huge life-changing decisions. And so it was kind of like we were thinking, what do you do when you've reached a goal or you've accomplished something, whether it's huge, moving across the country, or tiny, you're now in a morning routine. So what do you do when you want something else and you feel kind of stagnant? You're like, now what do I do? Now what do I do? And you're feeling a little frustrated, maybe a little lost, maybe just not motivated. That's kind of where I feel at the moment. In the last few days, just as we made the big move across the country again. But now I'm unpacked and we're settled. We're getting to know our neighbors and the new routine. And it was like, okay, this was a huge goal for us for several months and now it's here. So now what's my purpose? Now what kind of dreams do I want to accomplish and goals do I want to set for myself? And so the three of us were just kind of chatting. We're all kind of in that same space. So what do we do, girls? Where do we start? We were kind of talking about some fresh ideas because I'm sure our listeners feel kind of the same way. Like I said, how big or how small the goal was that they just accomplished. Now what? Where should we go? Who has the best ideas?
I don't know if I have the best ideas. I was thinking about like the seasons, seasons like it's summer and that brings about, different thoughts and even desires than when we're in the middle of winter, and then there's different seasons of life. Kelly, you just went through a big season of moving, not knowing, I don't think this feels right. I don't think there was purpose in it and we can find the gifts in it, but then moving back to your roots and the symbolism I think is super powerful because I think we all can think of a time when we felt the most like on fire, empowered, the most purpose driven. Um, and that's a anchor. And like, okay, so for me, it was a couple years ago in April when we had started um, just talking more and learning about the purpose of a morning routine and spending time with yourself, taking the time to ask the hard question of what do you want? Not what do you think you're supposed to want, not what do you think your husband or kids expect you to want, but what do you want? And I know for me, when I started asking that question, it really opened my mind to that limitless possibilities. Like I'm made for more than being, in this role or that role. Like what else is there for me, God? And I started having that conversation with myself and God, and things came to my mind during that time. And then life got busy, things happened, and you kind of fall off the bus like what you were referring to. So I don't know about you guys, but like I feel drawn back to that time when I was disciplined, focused, I didn't necessarily know crystal clear what I wanted back then, but I was determined to figure it out and to be open to receiving, some creative divine ideas, because I was really thinking about it.
I love the timeliness of this conversation, ladies, because so we're recording this at the beginning of July, and I feel that the first half of the year was very like specific. I needed to get through a few things that were challenging, and I
Mhm.
used a lot of mindset work to do that, and I'm super proud of the events of the first half of the year. But now I'm in a space where, okay, I need to get back to this space of personal development and morning routines and things like that that kind of fell off as I was just getting swept up in the day to day of like, you know, school and kids and travel and, you know, illnesses and all the things that come up that you just can't avoid. Um, it took me it took me away from my own personal journey and a lot of the things that I was focusing on in my morning routine. And it's funny, actually, a few weeks ago, it was, my mom had said something about like, oh, well, you get up really early and you like read and stuff. And I was like, actually, I haven't been doing that. And I still like, if you followed along with my Italian journey and how I worked through that, I was still using these tools and trying to get through some of those difficult times. So they're always there, but even being like well practiced or well versed in some of these things, you can still fall off the wagon. And when she said that to me a few weeks ago, like, oh, well, you get up early. And I was like, actually, I'm not getting up. It was kind of like, I should get back to that. Like there was a reason that I needed to step back from that at that point because of the situation that I was in. And I'm allowing that. I am accepting that. But now, as we're looking at the second half of 2023 and thinking, okay, this all was an amazing first half of the year. What do I want for the second half of the year? I don't have an answer to that yet, but I think getting up and doing the work required and getting back to basics in a way is really what I need at this point. So I love that you guys are actually aligned in what I need at the moment, but also bringing it up at like the absolute perfect time because I feel like I want to make a commitment to you ladies that I'm going to start doing this and getting up and doing the work again. And summer is a really great time to do it, to be honest, because kids' camp schedules maybe a little bit later. There's going to, they'll be up later, so they'll sleep a little later. All of those things that I'm kind of noticing as we're entering the first weeks of summer. I don't have to get up at 5 a.m. to get this done. I can get up at 6:30 or 7 and still be able to get in a solid half hour of just quiet time, reading, journaling, getting thoughts out. And it helps so much. But it's funny how quickly that whole those habits can just fade away once you get wrapped up into the life of parenthood and being married and all of the things that come up. So yeah, I'm super excited. I actually just went and I grabbed a book that I'm going to start reading, tomorrow. Well, tomorrow morning. Why not wait?
I
Why bother reading tomorrow morning?
Right. I love that. And I love how you mentioned like the second half of the year because it is kind of, we've done so much
It's
from
crazy to
June.
say.
I know, right? January to
Mhm.
June. And our listeners too, probably there's so much that's packed in to that time. And even Lisa mentioned too, the season of summer right now, where, some of us are on a little bit of break. The kids are a little bit slower because they're not in school anymore. And so you're going on vacations. And so life just looks a little different. And having that true thought of what you want your second half of the year to look like it goes right along with what Lisa, with what do you what excites you, like what do you want, and you really can take control over what that looks like. And but also, Sara, give yourself amazing credit. We won't want to say like fall off the bus or because you did so much work with your travel trip and the boys, and I feel the exact same with moving. That took huge mindset work to get through something like that with the family and packing and road trip
And
and
not just get through, but thrive.
thrive.
Like it
How do I
wasn't
want
just
to feel?
surviving this time for
Hmm.
either of us, or,
Yes,
for Lisa, for things that are going on in your life too. We're not just surviving and getting through. We're actually like crushing it. And like it was
crushing.
as you designed, Kelly. So
Hmm.
it took a lot of work. And now we both have like this fresh start for the second
Fresh
half of
start.
the year.
Because we
Very exciting.
accomplished something so huge. And I think that's key for our listeners to realize too, like you got through the school year. Heck
Mhm.
yes, or, some trial with your health or job or marriage, whatever that looks like for you, that this is your chance to just reconnect to yourself, what's important, what you want it to feel like go into your heart and what you want. July for sure. Like maybe that's your focus time to really, like Sara mentioned, she's, going to start reading a book, to just get back into the routine. We don't have to give ourselves so much pressure. Like, I need an hour. Like, we've said before in previous podcasts, like if it's 5 minutes, if it's 10, Lisa mentioned in our previous talk too this morning, like she just opened a book. Like, I'm going to read 3 paragraphs, right, Lisa, and see
Mhm.
what speaks to me and go from there. Just take those
Mhm.
tiny steps to reconnect with yourself and what you're feeling in this season of summer and the second half of the year. I think it's so powerful to find what you need because all of us are so different, right? Some of us need that morning routine. Some of us need an evening routine. Some of us need to go walk in nature. Some of us need to start a yoga class, journaling, whatever. But it's time to reconnect, to check in. Check in, I feel like. Check into where you are and how you're feeling at the moment because I think it's so just important for your heart and the people around you. When your cup isn't full, you can't pour into anyone else, right? And people around you can feel that. So it's important for your kids, your spouse, your friends, your community groups.
Yeah. And I also think we've said this many times before, but if you aren't growing, then what's the point?
Dying.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I hate that. I love it, but I hate to
I
say that
know.
because I just feel like it's so like dark, but it's true. So I feel
Right.
like at this point, like I've kind of come to this plateau and I'm like, what does that mean then? Like I
Mhm.
need to get back on the slope upward because otherwise, you
Mhm.
know,
Right.
And I think about just even the example in nature. So, like a plateau, if there's water on a plateau, it's probably stagnant water, right? It's just kind of a cesspool of just stagnant water. And I think oftentimes we we don't even realize that we're in that stagnant water. And the opposite of that is flowing water. It's moving, it's life-giving, it's rumbling, and it's got that, you can hear the sound of it, right? Because it's taking action. And I think oftentimes when we hit a goal, or we're like, okay, the move is done. Yeah, take a moment to breathe and to, check that off the box, maybe celebrate a little bit. That was a
Mhm.
big deal. But then what? Do you just like sit there and feel good about the fact that you're here in this, place? Do you just sit there? Or and if you sit there too long, you get stagnant. You lose the life, like you were saying. Either you're growing or you're dying. And water that's not moving becomes dead. It becomes stagnant. It becomes stinky. In fact,
Mhm.
like it's bad. So I just think there's so, we can go, 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 go. And this is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying just fill your calendar with busyness.
Mhm.
that's a totally different kind of flowing water. That's like the frantic water that's that isn't accomplishing anything really, right? It's just exhausted. The
That's
That's like
like
a
water,
wave,
Niagara
a
Falls.
wave
Just
pool, or like a wave pool where it's just like recycled water and like I don't know,
yeah,
not what we're looking
exactly,
for.
exactly. The
Mhm,
to-dos
mhm.
that I think we as Americans, maybe human as a species, we live in that wave pool of just like it's just recycled water. We just keep doing the same thing, same thing, same thing.
Mhm,
We think we're moving, but we're really not. Like
mhm.
I
we've
feel
even
that right now, like I really do, because I feel like I'm busy. I'm very busy, but I feel in my heart that like I need to be doing something different, something more. And I'm like, where do I go now? What do I do now? And I do feel like I kind of got wrapped into even when I got back from our Italy trip. Like I know I was focused on that, but like the month of June was like one school event and another school event, and I was like kind of playing class mom this month. But it's just like recycled things, and it's not. I'm not. I'm staying in one place. I'm like on a treadmill. I'm not going anywhere. So
Right.
it's I feel that whole analogy so much right now, Lisa, and it's time to
mm,
snap out of it.
time to
Well,
snap out.
mhm.
And the flowing water, like it has direction. And the only way that I think you can really know where that's going is to get quiet, is to spend time digging deep into what is it that I want? Like, what's important to me? What are my core values? How does that flush out into, you know, how I show up for my family, how I show up at my job? Is is this it for me, or is there more? Is there something more? And that quiet journaling, meditating, reading, like these are all like the tools in the toolbox to get your water flowing and figuring out the direction.
I love that because I feel like when we all kind of first met and we got to know each other, and we started to dive into teachings like this, I remember, and we talked about it too, was our journey with Bob Proctor.
Yep.
And Sara, I think this is your book that you're picking up, possibly Think and Grow Rich. And we've mentioned this book before, but it's really, even if you haven't gone through, like our listeners, the Bob Proctor trainings and stuff, like just grab this book. It's truly life changing and taking your life like by the horns on the bull, and really finding what excites you, and just a different perspective. And I'm now going to go find that book somewhere in all the boxes in my office
So
because
funny.
you need a reset. And I think he just nails so many key points in our lives. And like Sara, you were talking about, you just kind of feel this like need for something else. And we don't want to overwhelm our listeners that like you have to add something on and to do. No, this is inner work. This isn't something you have
Right.
to go, buy and do and sign up for it's literally for yourself to figure out what you really want. And I think, Lisa, this was the book that you picked up just the other day too, as well, right?
This is it. But I
Mhm.
want to make a disclaimer because like the title of it 2 years ago, I was like, I'm not reading that. Like, I'm not about, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and think and money's gonna fall into my
Yeah.
account. Like that that was like, no, I'm not gonna read this. I'm not gonna read this. I mean, I had seriously resistance because I was like, if it's just about thinking and getting rich,
Becoming rich, right? It
yeah,
sounds
right?
really just
It
negative and
sounds
self-serving, and yeah.
and
How
hocus pocus and
mhm,
like, oh, I'm just gonna meditate and my income's gonna grow, whatever. This is not what this book is
mhm,
about. And they even say at the beginning, it's Napoleon Hill is the author, and he says like, it is not about financial richness. The real richness is the quality of your life, It is about finding your purpose. It is about living uh, an intentional, purpose driven, missional, like passion filled life. That's what this book is about. And it does start with our thoughts. And, I had preconceived notions about that too, because I think it gets a bad rap. It gets a total bad rap in, some belief systems, just, but they haven't actually read the book.
Right.
And I think that's the difference, because once you do, you're like, oh, wow, like this is enriching my life. And, there's other books out there, like there's tons of, but they all kind of say the same thing in different words. And so if this isn't, your jam, find one that talks about creating your mindset and getting in touch with your heart set so that you can truly be living an intentional life, and the abundance and the richness of life will flow. Like it will flow. So love this, and we'll put that in the show notes as well, a link to that, the book. And I'm excited because I think we're gonna like just be really finding rich conversations here in our podcast around these concepts, because like we had said before we went on air, repetition, 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 and hearing it again and again and again just gets it deeper and deeper. So I am excited. Yay. All right. So we're so grateful that you follow us. We're on episode 70. This is kind of a big deal, right? So we want to continue to serve you as our listeners. So if there is a topic or a question you want us to tackle, by all means, reach out to us, because this is part of us figuring out how our mission can bless you and serve you. So we're just grateful that you're here. Share, like, comment, all the things. We appreciate you supporting us on the social media platforms, and do join our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group, and that's where you can connect with more like-minded women and grow. So until we continue this conversation, spend a little time with yourself so that you can literally wake up the desires within you and start dreaming again.